Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Freedom to Learn podcast. For those who are not familiar with this, please subscribe and press on the like button. Today we have Kish Parikh, and who I've been working with him for last over a year, I guess, around 18 months or over a year. And he's one of the very enthusiastic individual I came across in terms of building a lot of web solutions. He has a good eye for UX UI, and more importantly, he's very, very organized. And I like his work ethic. And he worked for Siliconvalley4u as an intern for some time. He just finished his graduation and he got into Amazon. And so congratulations and welcome, Kish.
Thank you, Guru. It's good to be here. I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, so tell the viewers about yourself, and also more importantly, what attracted you to get into this building websites and specifically Webflow and whole 9 years. What was that one thing that led you to, hey, this is what I want to do?
For sure. So I'll start from the beginning. I grew up in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. I always was interested in art, everything from like drawing on the walls to like making duct tape wallets to painting. And I always wanted to make art that was like sort of functional, that was like did things. And I also was very interested in people. I always wanted to like read people's minds, get in their head, figure out why they're doing things. So when I went to college, I ended up going to Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. I studied creative computing and psychology. So creative computing was like a little bit of coding, a little bit of like graphic design, and then psychology was like the people aspect. And you mix all those disciplines together and you get kind of UX design. So I did a boot camp in UX design during my sophomore year of college. And then now that I've graduated, I'm a UX designer at AWS, Amazon Web Services. I just started last week, and I just graduated school about a month ago. And sort of my kind of career path. So I'll say building websites is sort of a hobby. It's kind of like my side practice, and my main kind of focus is design stuff. So honestly, I didn't do any design, web development, website, no code, anything like that before maybe two and a half years ago. So it was like my sophomore year of college. I wasn't doing anything. And then COVID-19 hit. I moved back home. I had tons of free time on my hand. And then I started thinking about, okay, what do I actually want to do when I graduate? And my brother introduced me to different no-code tools. And I always loved the idea of, again, making things from scratch. I had started coding a little bit, so I felt a little bit more comfortable learning these softwares. And I saw the potential of tools like Webflow, where you can build awesome websites without having to learn so much. So that really just excited me. And I didn't really get into it until I got a project with basically my brother's startup company called Inquire. He said, hey, we need a website. And, there wasn't much to lose. So I started building a website. And ever since then, I got more and more into it. And I just kept learning, kept taking on projects, kept building websites. And I've kept on doing that in addition to my school, in addition to internships and things like that. I always build websites on the side. It's just fun for me. So that's pretty much how I got into it. And that's actually how I met you at Siliconvalley4u, right? You were looking for a Webflow developer. And I was like, okay, sounds fun. Yeah, so that's kind of been my journey so far.
Yeah, it looks like you have natural talent for building websites, because I've seen your brother's website. It was pretty cool. And I think that's, I guess you're gifted. And I think it's sometimes, you can develop, maybe some folks are born with it. So, especially all these websites are very subjective. And so, yeah, so that's kudos to you, and it's good for you. So other thing I like to commend is that you have the people skills. You are the people person. I can see that. Um, I consider myself one, but so you seem to be way ahead of my, my league. So yeah, so those skills are going to help you going forward, because it's all about networking. If you keep the right connections in the right way, things are going to come to you. So
I appreciate that. I'll just say, like, I think one of my strengths thus far is just like I try to do everything. Always trying to, like, I don't want to be just good at one thing. So I learned a little bit of design, and then I also want to learn how to code. And then I also want to learn how to sell, work with
yeah,
people. So I want to be able to do everything, you know what I mean? And I think my unique strengths come when I can put those different disciplines together.
yeah.
That's why no code comes in handy, and then the people skills. So yeah.
I have one word for that, the resourceful, basically, because
Mm,
when you run into a particular situation, you don't know what is expected out of you. I know there are checkbox items. You go in and then, hey, I'm going to be developing this. I'm going to be, you are the designer, you are the developer, all these, hierarchy and ranks are, defined, companies. However, but, there is always a fine line between what is your role and what you end up doing. And if that's a little bit off, and yeah, as you said, I mean, some folks kind of, that may not be able to blend into it. So having that additional skill of selling, or taking that extra step to talk to other person and make things happen, those are the intangibles you can be trained for. There is no training for that. You just just have to do it. So yeah, and that's what I mean to say. It's a say, as you grow, and you'll see a lot more things as you professionally grow in your career. And I think all the things that you have right now is going to be very useful.
mm-hmm.
And so now that you launched your career at Amazon, congratulations. So my question is, it's not about Amazon or whatever, or Google or whatnot. Was that your goal, like getting into some kind of a public company and start your career? If that's the case, do you think your college education helped achieving it? If your goal was not getting into all these multinational companies, just talk about what you wanted to do when you grow up, which is now.
For sure. So I think I'm unique that, like I said, I didn't get into like even UX design. I wasn't doing any of this stuff until a couple of years back. So it's been pretty like fast moving of like me developing my skills and like slowly like leveling up of like working at this level company and this level company. I'm making this much money, this much money. So I've always just taken it one step at a time. But definitely, I mean, I went to a private middle school, I went to a private high school, and then even my college was very expensive. So it's not for no reason my parents are paying that much money to send me to school. So obviously their hope for me is that I get a good job, make a lot of money. So I just kind of wanted to check that box on a very like superficial level. Like I want to make sure I justified all that years of education and investment. So that was just a box I wanted to check, and I knew for me to check that box properly, I needed to get to like the top level company. And for in my area, that's a FANG company, right? I'm very thankful that I got to it like my first job out of college. It's amazing. Even actually the job I got, it's not even like an entry level role. It's like there's a few years of experience required, but because I had done so much stuff during college, I was able to get like a little advanced job. So that was definitely the goal, but I'd say a little bit deeper. Like personally, my goal was always just to kind of learn as much as I can, get as much exposure as I can, right? So in that sense, college definitely helped and was definitely necessary. I don't think I would have gotten this Amazon job without obviously going to college and getting my degrees. But also to learn, again, like I said, I want to be as well-rounded as I can. So that just means being as exposed and having as many challenges as I can, right? So college was a crucial step in that. And now being at Amazon, it's like I'm going to be challenged probably more than at other companies. So that aligns with my goals. And so I'm going to keep working at Amazon until I feel like I've learned everything I need to learn. Then I'll find the next place that I need to, that will challenge me. So that's kind of how I approach it.
Yeah, sounds good. So I just want to be very clear for the viewers. So when you say college education help, so there are two parts, right? For instance, a lot of companies don't probably engage in conversation with you, without having that degree, 4-year degrees, at least 4-year degree at least. So is that the kind of help you got from the college degree, or what you really learn in college? In other words, all the subjects, whatever the subjects you learn, whatever that few things that you learned from college help to get into Amazon. In other words,
Yeah.
are you potentially going to use in future, or right now, anything that you learned from college, are you able to use them?
No, I understand. So it's a great question. So actually, okay, so definitely, yeah, the degrees, just like on paper, having graduated college, I think that's a requirement. Maybe it's possible, but like, it's going to be much harder. And then also the fact that my degrees were like creative computing, psychology, it also very much fits with UX, like that helps. I'll say honestly, the coursework and the actual things I learned in college didn't help that much. It was all the things I learned outside of college, all the side projects I did, freelance projects, volunteer work, classes I took, the boot camp I did, all of the actual learning and projects I did outside of school that really got me the job. Because especially for design, you need to have a portfolio, you need to have stories of work that you could talk about. So it was that part that really helped me.
Right. So that's precisely what I was saying. Just to, I don't want to, drag too much, but point I'm trying to make is, let's say hypothetically, you had, I know you did a bunch of work. Let's say you had a lot more significant chunk of work and that you did during pandemic, and then for whatever reason you decide not to pursue the degree. Do you think Amazon would have offered you the job?
It's hard to say.
That's a hard.
I would
Yeah.
assume probably not.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, sounds good. So now that leads to my next question, right? For instance, you are in Silicon Valley Silicon Valley, sorry, I'm used to my company name. And, a lot of companies are pioneering it here. One of them happened to be, Facebook. So I asked this question to everybody, especially somebody like you, who kind of launched into, working while you're still in school, and you're sort of freelancing, so to speak. And so let's say you were given an opportunity like a Facebook, like what I mean by Facebook, like is something that you feel that it's going to be some, whatever, this is going to be a decent product slash startup.
Right.
If you felt that, and then, hey, this is something I want to work on, would you have considered going and dropping out of that and then go to college?
It's a good question. I don't know how I would feel if I actually was presented with that idea, but in my head, if I'm thinking about it, I would say I would still have finished college, because my approach, my philosophy is just like, I'm not going to say no to anything at this point. I'm only just going to keep saying yes to things, So I would try to work on the startup while doing school, because leaving school to work on the startup, that closes a door, right? Then I don't get the degrees. Then if at some point later I need my degrees, then I have to go back, right? As opposed if I just finished it at that point. So that would be my approach. I would just try to finish college and do the startup. I don't see why I can't do both. At this point in my life, like I've actually said, like up until I'm like 25, I'm not going to close doors for myself or make decisions about I'm only going to do this or I'm only going to do this. I'm just going to try to explore everything and not close myself off.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's a approach. So So typically, if you have a very good startup and you feel that startup, unfortunately, you can't do anything else. So that's the nature of startup, and it's not you, it's not individuals. For instance, if somebody, I know it sounds too good to be true right now, but all these Mark Zuckerbergs, all those guys, he was at Harvard, he could have continued, but the reason he dropped out is because he felt that the amount of time he can invest into whatever he was doing at that time, it won't be sufficient if he continues to do the degree. So, but there is no right or wrong, right? Everybody has a different approach. But I just want to add that they all got degrees, just so you know.
They
So
all
they
went
were
back
all,
and got it.
so they
Right.
they got the degree without going through exams and all that. So
Mhm.
anyway, that's jokes aside.
Yeah,
But yeah, so like I said, there is no. I think things are evolving, and it might take another 4 or 5 years. Not that everybody's going to drop out of school and do things. That's not the formula, but it's the opportunity that is presented. Sometimes, if that's the right time, you have to make a tough decision, right? So it is what it is.
definitely,
I wish
definitely,
so I didn't have a choice, but now you guys, this generation, when I say you guys, this generation guys have those options available.
for sure.
So yeah, so the next is, I know, so you and I connected, and then I think through LinkedIn, and so we started talking, and I really liked everything about you, and then you did some internship with us. So talk about your association with Silicon Valley for you, and you know everything about what we do. In fact, you did the complete website and for us. Yeah, so anything that you want to share
For
about?
sure.
Yeah.
So, so I think I just came across a job posting by Siliconvalley4u on LinkedIn for like a Webflow developer. And for job postings for Webflow specific jobs are still pretty rare. So I was like, okay, cool. And I applied, and I heard back pretty quick from you. And I mean, yeah, there were a few different things you asked me to do. One was work on a few of the products, SWAT Cloud, right? And we talked about Nextcloud, and then also to teach Webflow and Bubble class, right? So that's kind of the first few things I did. So I taught a Webflow class to a group of like young high schoolers, and then I also worked on the website for SWAT Cloud. Um, so those are kind of my first few projects. I personally just got really invested in Siliconvalley4u. I, as I mentioned, my brother's startup, it's a ed tech startup also called Inkwire. So he's also very focused on the kind of gap we have in the education system, trying to make what we learn more holistic. And I saw Siliconvalley4u is pretty much solving that same problem. And I saw also a huge opportunity, like in terms of the website could be a lot better, the products could be better. And then also there are students who are interested in learning no code skills. So I just saw that I could help in all those things, and I tried to do whatever I could. I taught for I think about a summer until I started the next school year. And then I came back pretty recently to work on the newest version of the website as well. So working with a few team members, I built the new website, I designed it, and then also did the development of it. So that's kind of been my involvement with Siliconvalley4u, and I'm still, I keep in touch, and any new updates or projects we talk about it. But again, really the reason I've been involved this long and, was happy to come on the podcast is because I think you guys are solving a big problem in the education system, especially in the Silicon Valley. It should be obvious to kids that like, you're not going to learn everything you need to know from like your textbooks, and like, the classes you learn aren't going to teach you everything. Like you need to do actual projects. You need to learn real life skills to actually operate in the real world, right? So
Yeah.
there's a huge component missing in current curriculum. And you guys are doing a great job of providing that. And I've always just tried to help you scale that even more, and get more students to be involved.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. And also the work you did is amazing, all three aspects. And so the new website is looks pretty good. Yeah, and definitely I had no, I it's no brainer when I wanted to get the redo the website. I didn't even think about, oh, I want to see the design. None of those. I just handed over to you.
Yeah.
And so other thing is that yeah, and so as far as you know, I like to say that you are definitely, at least the the with our mission, you're one of the guys who are fairly in the advanced stage than most of the other people. I deal with a lot of students from all over the world, in India and Australia, UK here, so Canada, and so most of the folks have certain limitations and where they can be ahead of them. I mean, ahead of the you know the the theoretical education system,
Right.
and but there are a lot of in Silicon Valley. Everybody has an opportunity to be ahead, and then you took advantage of it. That's what I'm trying to say, and I think that's going to pay off in the long run. You probably don't see it, but probably you see it in few years. But definitely that gives that headway from someone else who is, with all due respect, just has a degree with certain GPA and trying to figure out what to do now. So so because you already have a sense of who the customer is, how customer operates, what their expectations are, how to deal with them, those are priceless skills in my opinion. And if you, unless you're gifted, and if you have to learn, so that's going to cost you time, because somebody has to give you opportunity to learn all those, and you created yourself those opportunities, which is great. And so now with all that experience I just talked about, you being ahead of a typical student in the education system, so what piece of advice you want to give to the next generation youth, whether it's about education or something else, like having the work experience. So for instance, I just want to talk to education part a little bit, because there is always, I deal with this every day. There are certain parents that are really worried that their kid is going to community college and what's going to happen to them. And then there are other parents very happy that their kids are going to one of the elite schools, and they tend to relax a little bit. And I see dangers in both sides. In fact, we did the podcast with one of our Max is our
Mm.
intern. He was in NYU, came back, and then he went to DVC here, community college. He's going to be in UCLA this fall.
Mm.
So he, all along 4.5 years, he was interning with us.
Yeah.
That gave that push in terms of his application for UCLA, and so anyway, just talk about your fresh out of the education system. I think you're the right person to talk to the next generation people. Any wisdom that you can share.
Yeah. So the the problems you mentioned are tough. I don't know all the answers, of course. Like I feel like I had it pretty good. My parents are pretty well off. Like they've always tried to put me in the best position to go to school, and I had always choices of where I want to go to school. I was never the best student by any means, not at all. It wasn't until college that like I learned how to like get my stuff together and like really focus and take my coursework seriously. But I mean, okay, so first to the question of like community college or like big college and like how much does it matter? uh First thing I've seen is that it what school you go to and even your grades only matter if you're going to go to school again after. So like if you went to med school, then it matters where, like the brand name of your college and your GPA, of course, law school, you're getting your MBA, those things. But if the next step in your after you graduate is working, I don't think it actually matters what like the name brand of your school and your grades. Those are actually completely irrelevant. And that took me until my senior year of college to realize that my grades actually don't matter. So it's like not worth stressing about. That's one thing. That's my opinion. Second thing is I think this is the sense I get from most of my friends in school and my personal experience. You don't actually learn that much in college, in your classes. You learn way more in your internships, in the side projects you do outside, the Googling you do in your free time, you know, when you're curious. That is where you really learn. You only, like, you have to have curiosities that come from within, and you need to go and seek those out. Sometimes, you know, it works that your curiosity is perfectly aligned with what classes you're taking. That's happened to me a few times. But usually you have to take the initiative to learn something outside school. So, and in the today's age, you can learn literally anything online. So it's not a problem of you can't, like, it's hard to learn a certain skill. The problem most people have is they don't care enough to go learn. They don't have enough initiative to go learn. They get complacent. So the complacent and lazy, that part is harder to solve, but I wouldn't rely on your classes and your school to give you all the tools you need to get a good job. Actually, even I know people who are at great schools, like the top, like coding schools, and they still have hard times finding jobs. I didn't have the best grades. I didn't go to the best school, but because I did internships and had all these projects and had communication skills, I was able to get probably the best job, you know, like a really great job. So it's all the stuff you do outside of school that will make the biggest difference. Last thing, just like more like philosophical. I'm a pretty like spiritual guy, and I only became spiritual again like in the last 2.5 years. When I was in college, I was lost. Just like you have to be, my biggest advice would be to be very conscious and aware of what you're doing and what choices you're making. Many of my friends, and for me for a long time, I was like this, you're just doing things because people expect you to, right? It's a cliche at this point, but your parents tell you to do something, or they want you to do something, and you just go along with it. All your friends are business majors, so you do business. You think you want to like become like, you all know like the examples, but you need to really evaluate your own decisions and like where you are in life and figure out whether it's something you want or something that someone else wants for you. And you need to have the courage to change whatever you need to change to make sure things are in line with you. Because at the end of the day, if you don't really want to do it, it's not going to work, or it's not going to last a long time.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, that was actually really hard to even realize that there were things that I was doing wrong. Like I was a business major when I first went to college. I realized that I was just like, I don't even know exactly why. I was like, oh, I want to make money, so business, so that makes sense. But I didn't actually have any interest in that, and I didn't know what I was learning. There's lots of things, you know, like that. So, and that applies not just to career things, right? For your life as a whole. Be very intentional about what you do, how you spend your time, who you hang out with, all of those things. Those would be my advice.
That's excellent. I mean, I 100% agree with you on many points. I always say this, you know, when you go on a certain path, you know, unfortunately, current education system doesn't give you opportunity to know whether that path is going to work for you or not. A lot of times people do MBAs right after undergrad. I always wonder, how do you know that's going to work out? So you are 100% right. And also the spiritual part where you, in other words, you're trying to make yourself stronger to analyze and dig deep and see, is it going to be, is it going to work for me? That may be a fantastic thing, you know, that by itself can be a very good thing, but does that work for me? I don't think many people do that. That's a great point. I'll give you another, example. For instance, so people say, "Hey, I want to learn just simple thing, Python." If I have a Stanford professor, I put a profile on that. Oh, everybody signs up. Do you really know? Do you need a Stanford professor to learn Python? Do you think even follow what he's talking about? Because he probably at very high level, or not. Who knows? Or maybe he doesn't have the patience to deal with somebody who is kind of lagging, and you need the right person to connect, to learn from that person, right? So people don't realize that there's all these, blah blah, and then boom, sign up. So you're 100% right on that. So with that, I always ask this last question to everybody, which is, what piece of tech do you need in your life that doesn't exist today?
It's a fun question. Obviously, if I had a great answer, I would go build it like immediately, So
That's a good way to put it.
it's not easy.
Yeah.
But something I've been thinking about is like, one problem I have is if I'm bored or maybe I'm not feeling so good, instinctual response is to just open my phone, go on Instagram, go on social media, maybe go check my email. Like, it's just like mindlessly going on my phone pretty much, right? Trying to like escape a little bit, looking for some kind of like reward in these apps. That's something very common in my generation, right? Like, we're kind of like addicted to social media, very unconsciously going to it. I feel like there could be apps on your phone that are like positive outlets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm bored. Is there something I can do on my phone that's actually constructive, that will make me feel better?
That's right.
There's a few options like that, like Headspace, Calm, those like meditation apps. Those are great, but not everyone is like trying to meditate, and like, what if you're just like, you have 10 minutes before your next class or something? You're not going to like close your eyes and meditate. Maybe you will, but something more casual, something maybe more like normal, some kind of positive, constructive activity you can do on your phone.
I hear you.
One thing I started doing was like, there's apps like Duolingo, like language learning apps, things like that, to like, and they're pretty fun. Like, you just like practice. I'm doing Chinese right now, just learning Chinese. It's good. Still a little weird though. There should be something that's a little bit more casual, that frees your mind and makes you a little bit more calm. Something like that.
Sounds good. So in the next podcast, we'll do in Mandarin. How about that? So
okay,
all
give
right.
me some time to prepare.
Hey, so thank you very much. Thanks for taking time. I really appreciate it. And yeah, so again, for those who are watching, and please subscribe and press the like button, and we'll see you in the next podcast. And so, just so you know, this series of podcasts will meet you in a few weeks again. Thanks, Kish.
Thanks, Guru. Bye.
Bye.